There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of codeLive here on YouTube and LinkedIn. I am your host today, Danielle Aregi, Senior Developer Advocate at Salesforce, focusing on the Data Cloud platform. We already asked an awesome question, which is who is joining us today on stream and where you're from. I'm already seeing some awesome answers in the chat. We missed a few. Hello to Germany. It didn't pull into the chat. There's a little bit of latency. And hello to those that tuned in from India. But also, I just want to show a couple of the amazing places that people are tuning in today. So hello from Lebanon. Hello, Assad. Welcome to our stream. And again, hello from India. Hello. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. And we have a couple of other people, one from Hyderabad. Hello, Venkat. Thanks for tuning into the stream. And hello to Salih from the Netherlands. Thanks for tuning in to our stream today. Oh, and we have a couple of others. Let's get these up there. Virginia. I used to live in Virginia. I lived in Arlington for some time. So hello to Virginia. And we got oh, sorry. You guys are moving fast now for me. Hello to Costa Rica. Yes, I want to go there someday. Go be on the beaches. And Seattle. Hello, Seattle. Hello to Chicago, Chi-Town. And hello to Argentina. Hola, hola. All right. So we have an amazing topic for you today. We're going to be talking about zero copy data and how you can use zero copy and Data Cloud in order to connect to Google BigQuery. So I'm actually not alone today. I would like to introduce my co-speaker. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Danielle.
Yeah, thanks for coming to the stream. And do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. So my name is Thomas. I'm based in Seattle, much like one of our viewers said here. So I've worked at Google for about 4 years, and for about 3.5 of those, I've been working on BigQuery Omni. So I was one of the software engineers who worked on the integration with Salesforce, and so I'm super excited to talk about it.
Yes, I'm excited to have you on stream. This is Thomas's first time being on our Salesforce Developers live stream, but hopefully not the last. And he is over here repping his Google t-shirt. You see, he's got the Google swag today, and I got my Salesforce Developers t-shirt, so we're swagged out for this stream. And this stream is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to show you both directions of the integration, and Thomas is going to start us off with an awesome presentation. But before we start off with that presentation, I just want to say we have our handy dandy forward-looking statement, which says that Salesforce is a publicly traded company. So please make all your purchasing decisions based on what is available in Salesforce today and not on any type of new products or features, enhancements that we might say are coming out for the platform. Okay. So now I'm switching back to us. Just quick shout out back to hello. There we go. Yes. Hello from Italy. Hello, LinkedIn user from Italy. Thanks for joining us on the stream. And I am going to turn it over to you, Thomas, to go ahead and get us started on what BigQuery is.
So before we get into demos and everything, I just wanted to give a little bit of information about how this integration works and what it lets you do. So we are calling this, bidirectional zero ETL data sharing. So I want to talk a little bit about how that works exactly. So there's 2 scenarios to this. That shouldn't come as a surprise given the bidirectional part. So the first is being able to access your BigQuery data in Salesforce. So I've linked to a blog post here. All the diagrams that I'm going to show here come from either blog posts or documentation on Google Cloud. So if you want more detail, you can just look at those. But so this is the way that you're able to use data that's in BigQuery and managed storage as the basis for your Salesforce Data Cloud data shared. So you can, for example, create an external data lake object based on a table that you've defined in Google BigQuery. Then you can use those in Salesforce Data Cloud along with whatever other data you may have there. The second part of it, and what I'm going to focus a little more on because this was the part of the integration that I worked on personally, is Salesforce data in BigQuery Omni. So this is, you've got your data lake objects, your data model objects, your calculated insight objects in Salesforce Data Cloud, and you want to query those in BigQuery Omni. And specifically, this is for your Salesforce data that's stored in AWS S3. So you have this data there that you might not be able to normally access via BigQuery's query engine. because it's not in Google Cloud. And so what we do is allow you to set up this data share target on Salesforce Data Cloud, where you can link it to BigQuery Omni and query your data that way. You access it via Analytics Hub, which is a part of Google Cloud that lets you share data sets. So you can create a linked data set via Analytics Hub and BigQuery Omni and have access to all of the data lake objects, data model objects, calculated insight objects that are inside your data share on Salesforce Data Cloud. And then we'll talk a little bit more later about all the fun things that you can do with that. So I want to talk a little bit about how BigQuery Omni works and how we're able to accomplish that zero copy that we talk about. So in standard GCP regions, BigQuery, which you might be familiar with, runs on Google infrastructure, and we query data that's in GCP. For BigQuery Omni, we actually run the full BigQuery query engine on AWS or Azure VMs. So the data processing happens in AWS or in Azure in the same place that the data already resides. And that means that we don't have to copy all of the data into GCP in order to process it and for our query engine to work on it. Instead, we can do the processing where it already is. And then the only thing that needs to be transferred is any query results or any data that you specifically want transferred and copied. So we have a little diagram about this. This is just from our public documentation again that talks about how BigQuery works. So we have in these Google Cloud regions, BigQuery's compute cluster runs on Google Cloud, and the BigQuery control plane talks to it, the version of it running on Google Cloud, and accesses your data that's stored in BigQuery Managed Storage. If you have data in AWS S3 storage or Azure Blob storage, then you'll want to use an Azure region or an AWS region, which is where my team BigQuery Omni comes in. And with that, one more. So this is just another diagram showing that. We do all the data plane processing on AWS and on Azure, and then return your query results directly back to the BigQuery control plane to show to you. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Danielle to the next part of our stream here.
Yeah, thanks for walking us through that. So if you have any questions about any of the slides that Thomas showed, now is the time to put in those questions into the chat, and we will come around to those throughout the stream. I want to say hello to my friend Brandon. Thanks for joining us, Brandon. Got to get tacos sometime soon. Thanks for joining from Salem, Massachusetts. And hello to Niket. Thank you for joining us, Niket. All right, so we are here to talk about how to now do this live and in action. Okay, so what we're first going to do is I'm going to bring up Data Cloud, our friend Data Cloud over here. All right, now if you ever have any trouble viewing, so we don't have the stream on in the background for obvious reasons. So if you ever have trouble viewing or something happens with the connection of the viewing the stream or anything that we're showing, make sure you type it in the chat to let us know, because we don't want to be like 5 screens down and you didn't see 4 screens ago. All right, so right now you should be seeing Data Cloud, Salesforce Data Cloud, and it looks a lot like Salesforce because it is in Salesforce. It's hosted in Salesforce, but Data Cloud has its own setup, right? So we're going to go over here to the gear icon and click in Data Cloud Setup. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to Connectors. All right. And we're going to click Connectors. And you can see here that I already have 2 connections set up. So an AWS S3 connection and a Google BigQuery connection. Now, the BigQuery connection is to what Thomas just described, a BigQuery instance where I can pull in data from BigQuery and to Salesforce Data Cloud. So this is one direction of the integration, which is I want to bring in data into Data Cloud from BigQuery. So I would do is I would go to Data Cloud Setup, I would click Connectors like I did, and then I would actually click New, and you'll see here all the connectors that exist, that are some that are in beta, and we have this Google BigQuery connector here. And then I would click Next. I would enter in a connection name, and then after I entered in the connection name, I would just need to put in the service account email for my integration user. And then I would need to upload the private key that I have associated with that service account, and then the project ID from my Google Cloud storage. All right. Now, after all of those details are entered, then I can click test connection and I can test my connection to make sure that the excuse me, that the integration is working. All right. Now, for the sake of time, I already set one up in advance, and I'm not going to set this up on stream because stream would go a little bit longer than what we planned. So we're going to instead, we already have our BigQuery connection right here, as you can see. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our app launcher. I'm then going to go to Data Cloud, our Data Cloud app. And then I'm going to click data streams. Now, data streams is how you get data into Data Cloud. Now, I did a really detailed live stream on this I would say last month, on how to bring in data, how to use data streams to bring in data and set up different connections. So if you want to learn more or go a deeper dive onto data streams, feel free to look up that previous live stream, and then that'll tell you everything that you need to know. But the point of this is, sorry, 1 second. All right, there we go. So the point of this is that we're going to show you that we have a new data stream. So it's new. So after we create that connection to BigQuery and Data Cloud, what we can do is we can then come here, and then we'll see this tile. See this new Google BigQuery tile after we create the connection between BigQuery and Data Cloud. Then what we can do is we can click next, and then we can find our connection. That's going to populate our database, and then we can see all of our different data sets that are existing in BigQuery. Now, one of the data sets I'm going to call attention to, which is one of the ones that we created, is this car warranty data set, right? So what we have actually is we've created, I'm going to close out of this, is we have data stored in two different areas. So we have car warranty information stored in Amazon S3, right? And what we want to do is we want to pull in that S3 data into Data Cloud, and then we want to be able to combine that S3 data with BigQuery data. So we have warranty information stored in S3, but then we have car purchase data stored in BigQuery. So keep those two things in mind on when we combine those later, the car warranty data in S3 that's coming into Data Cloud, and then our car purchase data in BigQuery. We're going to join the two together eventually. But I just want to show you. So here's our S3 data stream with all of our car warranty information. It's got all the fields, and it creates the data lake object. And then we already have 1,000 records that are coming into there. Okay. But let me just say all data streams. I don't think we created a BigQuery data stream, but that's okay. But that's typical way you create a data stream is how you would create one here for BigQuery. So that's data in for Data Cloud. All right, now let's talk about data out. So let's say now I have this data, right? I have this Amazon S3 data, this car warranty data in Data Cloud, and I want to not push this particular data. We're not going to push this particular data out. Actually, we are. We're going to push this particular data out into BigQuery. So the way that I would push this data out is I would use data sharing and data share targets. So the first thing I want to do is create a connection between Data Cloud and BigQuery as a data share target. Anything you want to say here, Thomas, about this connection?
So, like you said, this is how you're telling us that you want to be able to share this data with BigQuery. So, Salesforce handles all of the communicating with BigQuery for this to link the two. You're just going to need to specify some information like, who you want this to be shared with on the Google side. So you can see that Danielle's put her email address in here, which means that once this is shared with Google, she'll be able to go through Analytics Hub and create a linked data set based on it.
Yes. And then we have data shares right here, which has all of the current information that's currently being shared to Google Cloud. So after you create the data share target, you actually then go and create the data share by linking it. So I'm going to go here under where it is. There it is. Data shares. And so I have this car warranty data share, because remember, we want to share that car warranty information to BigQuery. And so anything you want to say about this, Thomas?
Yeah, so the big thing to note here is that the definition of all the objects that are in this data share is going to be shared automatically to BigQuery. So once you set up your data share, set up the linked data set in Analytics Hub, you don't need to go in and redefine these tables and retell BigQuery what the schema is or where this data lives. We fetch all of that from Salesforce Data Cloud so that when you're accessing it in BigQuery, you don't have to redefine any of that setup. We're able to just fetch it right from here.
Yep. And you have the ability to share data lake objects, data model objects, as well as calculated insights objects. All 3 types of objects can be shared to BigQuery, and it's really, really quickly. From the first time you create the share, the data pops up like that. It's really, really short of a time frame. But after the data is there, it's always there to be able to be queried virtually. All right. Now, one thing I want to say is after you do all the data share, don't forget to link and unlink the data share target. Link the data share target. I forgot to do that yesterday or the day before.
This demo.
For this demo. And I was like, why don't I see it, Thomas? And he was like, did you link the data share target? And I was like, oh, no, I didn't do it. So make sure you link the data share target. And if you ever want to stop sharing that data to BigQuery, you can always also unlink the data share target, and that will stop the sharing to BigQuery. All right. If there's any questions, make sure you type them into the chat, and we will surely get to those and answer them. All right. So what I'm going to do, now we've covered all the Salesforce side, the Salesforce Data Cloud side. So you saw how to bring in information from BigQuery into Data Cloud, and now you saw how to set up the data share target to make the connection between BigQuery and Data Cloud. It's really simple. I think, let me see if I can show that page real quick before I move on. But you'll click this new button under Data Share Targets tab, and then you have an option for 2. We're going to click the Google BigQuery one, then we click Next. So you would put in some type of label here, and then you would put in your principal account, and then it would take you through some type of OAuth flow. Choose user there, it would take you through the OAuth flow, and then it would authenticate you.
So
any
I think
details?
Question in the chat here, which is asking, does it mean the BigQuery directly reads from Data Cloud and data will always be up to date? Any delay? So right, when you're querying the data, we're reading it directly from AWS. So we're reading the data from the source of truth. Salesforce manages the permissions for all of that. And so we are reading it directly from the source of truth instead of reading a copy of it. So whenever you query this data, it's going to be the most recent version.
That's a great question. Thanks for that, Ravi. All right. And so that is how you would create the connection. And then again, you would create the data share after you create the data share target, and then you would link them. And then what you would be able to see is now we are in BigQuery. And we would go here to add, right? So it would first show up here under add. Or should I go someplace else? Right here, right?
And then down to Salesforce Data Cloud.
Okay. And then Salesforce Data Cloud. And then we would see all of our shares under here as a listing. And we're not going to create a new one, but just so you would know where to go once you create that data share target and you unlink or you link or unlink a data share, you'll see it here.
Should we also just show the linking process here?
Yes. So you walk me through this. What would you like me to click?
So if you can click on listing car warranty data share.
Yep.
So this is going to show you just some of the details about what it is you're looking at here. And then if you could click on subscribe.
Yep.
So this is going to ask you for what project you want to create this in case you have multiple that you have access to. And it's going to ask you what you want the name of your linked data set to be. So this will be what the data set will show up as in BigQuery. So, the standard sort of Analytics Hub rules about what you can name this supply in terms of, what are valid identifiers and it needing to be unique. But you can name this something that's, a little shorter than this if you wanted to, like car warranty share or something like that.
There we go. Oops.
And then that's going to determine what that shows up as when you're looking at like the BigQuery Resource Explorer or referencing it in a query, for example.
Yep. And so I'm just going to click save because it's not going to break anything for me to reshare this. And if it does break, it's his fault. And then so here we have our car warranty share. So you'll see anything that has like this little icon is a data share that's coming over, or what would we call this? What would we call this actually?
That icon indicates that it's a linked data set, as opposed
Okay.
to like the other data sets that you can see here that are native data sets. So that's not exclusive to Salesforce data sets, but Salesforce data sets will show up that way because they're always exposed through this Analytics Hub route.
Awesome. So all of our linked data sets. Currently, we have most of them are linked to Salesforce, but so all of our linked data sets are showing up here that we've brought in from Salesforce Data Cloud. All right. So any questions from anyone in the chat? Nothing yet. All right. I'll say before we move on to the next one, I will show a few more hellos. So hello from the United Kingdom. Hello, Ankit. Thank you for joining us. And hello from Pakistan. Hello. Thank you for joining us today on stream. All right. So what are some of the things that we can do, Thomas, after we've gone through, creating our data share target, linking our data share, bringing it in here, subscribing to it, and creating our data set? What are some of the things we can do?
So the very basic thing that you can do is just run a SQL query on it. BigQuery is a query engine, so it probably doesn't surprise you to learn that we, run queries on big data. So if you were to click there, exactly, and then click query, it'll open a query explorer for you. And you can just run a SQL query using standard Google SQL language. So in this case, we're doing a select star, so there's going to be a lot of fields popping up here.
And then we will see all the fields that's currently on this data lake object within Data Cloud. So now, obviously, you can add the fields that you want for simplicity. I just did.
Sure, we don't have to do select star, but that's a lot quicker, right?
Yeah.
Then where it gets interesting is some of the other stuff that you can do with this data. So for example, if you had data that was in GCP already, that you were already had a BigQuery table based on, you can join the two, even if they're not in the same region. So we offer these cross-cloud joins in BigQuery Omni, where we can join the data that you've brought into BigQuery via BigQuery Omni, whether that's from AWS or from Salesforce in this case, with data that's in other clouds, or in GCP rather, in other regions.
Yes, and I do have under data set 2, I do have my car purchase data, which I recently learned, because I will tell you all that I'm not a Google BigQuery person at all. So I had to learn some things from Thomas, which is good. I always encourage people to learn as much as they can about many different clouds. But I learned recently from Thomas that you could actually create a table in BigQuery and upload data from a CSV file. So I created this car purchase table off of a CSV file, and created the schema and everything and uploaded this data. So this data right here under data set 2 is actually a data set I created in BigQuery, and then I actually created this table, and this data is actually loaded here.
And which region is this created in?
Oh, I think it was multi-region. Is there any way I can see it?
Yes, it'll be right there in table info. So you can see data location, US. So yeah, you've created this in the US multi-region.
Okay. That's where I created it. Any call out about that though? About the regions?
That it is not the same region that you'll see if you look at the Salesforce data sets that you've created. So if you go to warranties, you should see that in different region. If you go to the details, you might need to look at the data set itself.
The data set itself. Oh, this right here.
Yep, so you can see that this is in the AWS US East 1 region, and that's one of the BigQuery Omni regions that we run. So we have separate regions for BigQuery Omni. So creating that data set in US means that you're not using BigQuery Omni, you're using that standard BigQuery, on GCP.
Okay. Good to know. Good information. This is why I love having experts on stream. You can always tell us more than what we would ever know on our own. Thank you. And then what Thomas was kicking off earlier was how we could combine these two data sets. So here, actually, I clearly didn't save my query from the other day because I'm still seeing the select star in here. But we do have the ability to do an inner join on both data sets from both the car purchase and the warranty table. Thankfully, I don't have any of the rows named the same or columns named the same, so we won't throw a nasty error. But it is going to take a longer time, since I clearly didn't press save the last time for the query. But here it's pulling in both the warranty data and the car purchase data from both areas. So I have all of my car purchase data with my make, model, and year and VIN, which is stored right here in BigQuery Omni. And then I also have the data that I'm pulling in here from Data Cloud as well. So you can see here the data source is AWS S3. So now you can start to kind of see the power of Data Cloud to be able to share this data across to BigQuery with how you can do SQL statements and cross joins in SQL to be able to query data that's residing in both locations.
Yep, and being able to join across the two regions and even across the two clouds with just a single, join statement, like you would just two tables that are in the same region, is one of the really big parts of this that we wanted to make sure that we add support for.
Yes. So here's all my warranty information with the warranty expiration, the type, all that is stored in S3, which was brought into Data Cloud, and then again, joining it with the car purchase data, which is right here in BigQuery Omni. Now, one of the other things I had done a long time ago, because when I first looked at this, I really wanted to be able to create materialized view. Is there anything you want to say about creating materialized view from this data? I just did this for fun one time.
Sure. So this was another thing that we wanted to make sure would kind of just work with this integration. We really wanted to be able to, have you use this data in interesting ways once you brought it into BigQuery and not just run, single select queries or anything like that. So adding support for these cross-cloud materialized views was another big part of this integration.
Awesome. All right. Any questions? We do have a question from Brandon. Just want to show this. Are there any known limitations between using Data Cloud and Google BigQuery? That's a great question.
Yeah, so there are some limitations on it. If you look at the Google Cloud documentation about it, that'll have the most up-to-date list of them. For example, there's some limitations around like row-level security on things that you bring from Salesforce Data Cloud or COM-level security. So make sure that you look at the docs for the most up-to-date information on what those limitations are.
Awesome. Great question, Brandon. Any other questions before we end the stream? All right. Well, I had planned on, I have 2 blogs that are currently in the review process. So hopefully those blogs get out of the review process sometime soon. And then they will be published on the Salesforce developers blog, which is going to give you the detailed step-by-step steps, basically step-by-step steps. I don't know how else to say that.
Steps or step-by-step.
Right? Step-by-step steps to do the integration in both directions. So how to set this up, how to set up your principal, how to generate the key for the principal to bring in the data via the data stream, and then also how to create the data share and the data share targets. It's very, very simple. I would say you could set up both directions in 10 minutes or less. In my opinion. Very, very quick and easy to set this up. But one question, Thomas, if I wanted to learn more about BigQuery Omni and how to use some of the technologies in BigQuery Omni, where might someone be able to go?
Well, so we have lots of documentation on how to get started. So a good first step is Google it. So we have all of our Google Cloud documentation that has getting started guides on how to use BigQuery Omni, not just with Salesforce, but also with any other data that you have on AWS that isn't managed in Salesforce or in Azure. And more generally for BigQuery, we have lots of guides on how to get started with that as well. So I would recommend taking a look at those Google Cloud docs, and they have lots of great information and details.
Awesome. Thanks, Thomas. And is there anything you wanted to share with the stream before we head out?
The integration here was a lot of hard work on both the part of the BigQuery Omni team and on the Salesforce Data Cloud team. So, we're very excited to see people start using it, and hope everyone enjoys it.
All right.
Thanks again for having me today.
Yes, thank you for coming. And we also have a thank you here in the chat. So I hope you enjoyed, Sandhya, the stream. And thank you everyone for joining. We will be back next Thursday with another codeLive episode. Goodbye, everyone. All right. And that was supposed to start music. There we go.